Hi, this is Miss Gonzalez. So hopefully you enjoyed that video. That video shows you all three methods of how to solve a systems of equations. Before we left, we had a couple days looking into what is a system of equations and how to graph it. So before we continue graphing systems, I wanted to take a minute to just review how to graph lines in general. So first we have the line y equals mx plus b, and hopefully you remember how to graph that. If not, I'm going to walk you through it. Please remember where this video is. You can always go back to this video as many times as you need as a refresh, or you can write notes along with me. But this will be up for at least 30 days that you could keep going back, and I'm sure I could find another way to extend it later. So here is your y equals mx plus b. If you remember, your non-x term is your b. So this is your starting point. This is where we start. We start at a -3. And then this is your rise over run. Remember, your numerator is your rise. And the bottom is your run. So I would start at the -3. And from here, hopefully you guys remember, how do I move? Up 1, over 2. Perfect. And then I would repeat that. Up 1, over 2 again. So remember, your non-x term is where you start, always on the y-axis. Here is where you start. And then you move by what's in front of the x. Okay, and there is my line. So remember, systems of equation is going to be two equations. So first, before we can start graphing two equations, we need to remember how to graph one. So hopefully if you didn't remember how to do that, rewind it and see back to how you do that. Remember where the video is. Here is where we had standard form. So for those of you who remember standard form, hopefully you do, we look at the x first with the answer. So this would be 8x equals 16. And then we have to solve our equation that we just created. So when we have 8x, that's multiplication. What's the opposite? Dividing. Great. So what we're going to do is we're going to divide both of these by 8. What is 16 divided by 8? Please use your calculator. Your computers all have a calculator on it. You could be having that in the background. And that is going to be x equals 2. Very good. So this is the point. X goes first, 2, comma, 0. Remember, we're finding our x-intercepts when the other one is 0. So I would put a point at 2, comma, 0, and there's my first point. Remember, the standard form is when both your x's and your y's are on the same side. So whenever you have your x's and y's on the same side, this is how you have to go about graphing. So now I can look at the y's. This time I'm going to have 4y equals 16. Again, now I'm going to ignore the x because I'm pretending the x is 0. I want to find out if the x is 0, where would I be on the y? So remember, this is your x, and up here is your y. So if I go and solve this equation that we have here, how do I solve it? Again, this is multiplication, so the opposite is division, correct? So now you're going to divide both sides by 4. What is 16 divided by 4? 4. Hopefully you guys all knew that or used your calculator to figure that out. So now the y is 4. So the x is the 0. So x goes first, comma 4. So now I need to know, where am I on the y-axis? Count 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I can draw my line. Some of your equations are going to look like this, and some of your equations are going to look like this. As long as you know how to graph it, you are going to be able to solve our systems. So again, hopefully If you needed to replay this video, pause it, write down some notes on it if that helps you. That is up to you, but hopefully you followed along with me. So I'm going to go down. This whole packet that I'm writing on right now was attached to the Google Classroom that I attached with this Nearpod activity. So you could have printed that off. It could be in your browser, so you could go back and forth looking at it. But this example came right off of that PDF. So on the bottom of that page, you'll see that they start talking about 3 different types of solutions. So before we talk about how to solve a system, I want to talk about our 3 types. So first type, the first type is where you actually have one solution. So you can write down one solution. You're going to have a solution if your lines cross. So remember from the day before we left, this is what we were working on. We were drawing our lines and we were finding out where do the lines intersect. So here would be an example where they cross. Most of the time, you're going to have a point of intersection. There's only going to be a few rare instances where they do not intersect. So here they intersect. Where is this? How would you label this point? What is the x? So let's count the x. 1, 2. So that means the x value of this solution is 2. What is the y? Let's count up. 1, 2. So this is the point 2, 2. So that is our solution to this system. If I was to graph this line and then graph this line is the blue line, this line's the red line, they crossed here. Okay? So in this case, there is one solution. Most of the time, we're going to have one solution. In this case, what do you notice about these 2 equations? Hopefully you're saying they're the exact same. Yes. So sometimes the lines are written differently, but they end up being the exact same line. In this case, we're going to say infinite solutions because they are intersecting at every single point of this line. So there's no way that I could say that's 100 points or that's 1,000 points. So we use the word infinite to say that there are many, 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 many more than I can count solutions on this line. So that is case 2. Case 3 is what happens if these lines never intersect. What type of lines never intersect? Parallel. Perfect. So case 3 is what if we had parallel lines? As you could tell, remember parallel lines have the same slope. So here I have the same slope of 1, so these are parallel lines. Parallel lines have no solution because they are never going to cross. So please, on another piece of paper, if you weren't able to print this off, again, I told you don't have to. It's a lot of paper to be printing off. Write down these 3 cases. Also, maybe make a quick sketch of the 2 examples of this whole page. So do that. If you need to rewind the video and put it in your notes before you go and answer the next slide. Thank you.